Good morning. Welcome to our BMS Merchant Services webinar. We will be discussing how you can keep your business relevant during this digital age, taking on learnings from the COVID-19 pandemic. My name is Yashen Naidu, and I have the privilege of being your host for this event. Digital marketing has an incredible influence on people's interactions, work, purchases, and life habits. As such, companies today need to have a firm grasp on how to utilize the digital universe and to maximize on brand awareness and impact. The colossal amount of data in cyberspace makes it hard for any brand to make a real impact. The key is knowing who the target audience is and creating content that grabs their attention and encourages them to engage. Thank you for joining us this morning, and we do hope that you guys find this presentation insightful. As this is the new norm, interacting with people via platforms such as this, I would want to share with you one of the most used quotes for 2020. In my mind, I would have thought it would be, have you washed your hands or do you have a mask? I was wrong. The most used quote for 2020, you're on mute. Okay, guys, so listen, before I introduce our speakers, I'd like to run through a few house rules. Our speakers will take us through their outlook, and afterwards, we'll open up for a question and answer session. You'll only be able to interact with us via the Q&A panel on the right-hand side. Please type your questions onto the Q&A panel, and we will attend to it. Feel free to ask as many questions as possible within the allocated time, and we'll endeavor to get through as many questions as we can. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce our first speaker, Michelle Duplessis. She has operated her own fashion accessory e-commerce store since 2012. Her passion is in brand engagement and consumer experience within the e-commerce sector. Over to you, Michelle.
Hi, guys. Thank you so much for having me this morning. I'm super excited to be presenting to you guys. I'm going to be discussing method in the madness, navigating a way forward in a new era with not a new idea necessarily. So let's get into it. A little bit about myself. I've been an entrepreneur since 2006. I studied BCom and then did my MCom in marketing, focusing on consumer engagement and brand loyalty, as was said, in the online shopping environment. I have been running my own business, Macaroon Collection, since January 2012. I also have a passion for education and sharing knowledge. I have 2 Dachshunds, I run, and I love to cook. So that's just me in a nutshell. Let's get straight into it. Since February, we've all been a little bit frantic here in South Africa about everything that was going on. And as I've been saying to people lately, I don't have ducks and they're not in a row. I've got squirrels and they're at a rave. And I think that's pretty much how we've all been feeling with this new situation we find ourselves in. We've all heard the term, the 4th industrial revolution. And I'm by no means any specialist or knowledgeable on this topic at all. But, the little bits that we hear on radio and TV and we read in articles and we watch the YouTube videos, it's all about your nanotechnologies, your exponential growths and the developments in that era sector, genetic advancements, 3D printing, it's all these things that most of us kind of raise an eyebrow and say, okay, well, kind of understand what they're getting at, but I don't really know fully. So we've got this situation that's been bubbling around us for a while, and then came COVID. COVID forced us to adopt new technologies in ways that we may have pushed against previously. Why must we do it that way when the old way is working? And no matter how we look at it, certain things have changed forever. From an education perspective, I know that there are a couple of educational institutions that have decided that moving forward, there will no longer be any form of venue-based exams. So that's something new that literally COVID pushed us into. Their technology existed. We never adopted it. COVID pushed us there, and now it's just going to stay. So the reality is we need to change with the times. I also like to say that there's nothing new about this new world we live in, but it is our new reality. So what happened when COVID, started bubbling and we started having the situation in South Africa, specifically for myself? I can vouch that I panicked. As a small business owner, I was in panic mode. And I think most of us who have small businesses, small to medium enterprises, can actually relate to that. I sat on the couch watching, the military convoys out of Italy where they were taking the bodies out of the cities. And I just thought, like, what am I going to do? How am I going to cope? Is Macaroon going to survive? I didn't know which way to turn. And one morning I woke up and I decided this can't go on like this. And I literally kicked myself back into reality. I stood in front of the mirror and I was like, Michelle, you've got to decide what you want to do. Are you a business owner that's just going to, flap along and try and keep up with the times? Or are you going to be an entrepreneur? And I decided to be that entrepreneur because that is who I am to my core. So entrepreneurs, we adapt, we hustle, we seek opportunity, we find a way forward, we organically change with the times. That is what makes us entrepreneurs. So I sat down within this new mindset and I made some choices. I reviewed my business from logistics to supplier relations to how am I going to work with my consumers moving forward. But one of the hard decisions I had to make was marketing budget. And I decided to halve my marketing budget. Now, as a marketer, I can say that you don't cut your marketing spend during tough times. You push your marketing. You tell your consumer, we are here, we are solid, we are present. So to make that decision as a marketer to say, okay, fine, I'm going to cut the budget, but putting on my business hat, my business owner hat, saying I have to make budgetary cuts, it was this toss up. So how to spend my budget now? I've got half of what I normally spend, how to spend it. So there's a principle called the Pareto principle. Vilfredo Federico Damaso Pareto. There we go. That's my best Italian accent you're going to get out of me today. He was an Italian engineer, economist, political scientist, and he made a couple of contributions across the fields in multiple theories about things like that. Now, when I say the Pareto principle, people mostly raise their eyebrow and say, who's that? Is there anyone who knows? I'd be interested to see. We've all seen the 80-20 rule. We all know it. This is actually his theory that he put forward in 1906 when he realized and put out there in the world that 20% of the Italian population owned 80% of the wealth. And this theory was taken and tested across many other industries and situations. And they realized it's actually a universal principle that can be applied. And if you've studied any form of business or marketing or economics, this rule pops up in multiple textbooks. And I thought to myself, but Michelle, this is what you learned when you studied BCom, and then they reinforce it at honors and they reinforce it when you do your masters. So why not go back to those basics? So how did I do that? I focused on my existing clients. So I spent 80% of my budget on 20% of my clients, and then the rest of that budget I spent on the other clients as well as new acquisitions. So how did I do that? First of all, I stopped all my social media advertising, your boosting posts, getting page likes, those types of things. I stopped instantly. I reworked Google. I sat and I did a solid breakdown and analysis of what was going on with my Google AdWords, what was working, what was not working, what was very high expense-wise when it came to cost per click, keywords that weren't performing well, and I literally streamlined my Google to the best of my abilities. And I got my cost per click down to 52 cents per click. I actually checked this morning. It's now sitting at 78 cents cost per click, which is, it's pretty good. I then focused on remarketing. So the people who've bought from me previously, people who've been onto my website, who've shown interest, who've added things to cart but never actually purchased. Remarketing, I focused on that. And then I beefed up my email campaigns. I was typically sending out one email a week or every 10 days. And I went full force and I sent 2 emails a week. Why did I do that? because your customers who bought from you, I mean, my email database is about 10,000 strong, and those are all people who have bought from me. They are macaroon clients. So your clients want to, when they in uncertain times, they want to know that they are working with people who are consistent, who are familiar, who are certain, and they can relate to. So I did that. That is what I focused on. It was a massive mind shift change from going from new acquisition, get new clients, which has been my strategy for quite a while, to this, okay, let's focus on the current consumer that I have, the certain ones. And these were the results. And I think the results speak for themselves. In the period of time from our harshest lockdown, from the 1st of April through to the end of July, that's basically from August, the economies did start opening up a lot more. So during that period of time of our harshest lockdown, I had a 42% growth in sales compared to last year for exactly the same period. I mean, I had 18% increase in online store sessions, and you can see my returning customer rate there as well was at 33%, which is pretty cool. But I mean, just that 42% growth in sales, and that is just from focusing 80% on my 20% of clients. So the proof is in the pudding. In closing, I would like to say that adapt or die has never been more relevant. With all the changes around us, be it COVID, be it the fourth industrial revolution, let's not forget the basics. They've existed for 100+ years. Let's not forget them. Let's also not forget that there's a human element to selling, and nothing can replace that human element. Intuition, emotion, comprehension, the desire to connect. So do not doubt who you are. Do not doubt your skills and the passion you have for what you do. And there's a video by Gerd Leonard that I want to share with you, and I think it speaks beautifully into this topic as well as what we will be facing forward. So enjoy.
Once upon a time, business as usual was often good enough. No more. Where we are going, good enough is dead. In a world where everything is connected, where everything is equally excellent, where performance is reaching perfection, there's only one space left to innovate in: you. Right now, you are a central point in the raging tornado of change fueled by digitization, mobilization, augmentation, disintermediation, automation. Well, the list goes on. Science fiction is becoming science fact. Think about self-driving cars or computers that can learn and think. The way we work will never be the same. The skills we need will be dramatically different. Winning or losing are now happening faster than ever before. So what's your response? How will you discover new opportunities in one of the most transformational times in human history? Are you driving change, or are you being driven by it? Disruption has become the new normal. With change, it's always gradually, then suddenly, well, things really have stopped happening gradually. This change is exponential. Everything that used to be dumb and disconnected is now wired and intelligent. Cars, cities, ports, farms, even our bodies will be wired with sensors and will talk to each other. These game changers are also combinatorial. They amplify each other, creating a perfect storm of change. Quantum computing fuels big data. The Internet of Things fuels artificial intelligence and deep learning, which fuels robotics. However, anything that cannot be digitized or automated will become extremely valuable. Human-only traits such as creativity, imagination, intuition, emotion, and ethics will be even more important in the future, because machines are very good at simulating, but not at being. Yes, robots and software will do some of our work, but this will allow us to focus on things that cannot be automated. To imagine change squared, you've got to start engaging more with what might be, not just with what is. Immerse yourself in the immediate future, 5 to 7 years out from today. We need to go beyond technology and data to reach human insights and wisdom. Technology represents the how of change, but humans represent the why. The future is about holistic business model. The opportunity is to be liquid, to learn just in time, not just in case, not single improvements, but complete transformations, not individual systems, but new ecosystems. Humanity is where true and lasting value is created. We will engage, relate, and buy things because of the experiences they provide, because of their transformative power. The future doesn't just happen, the future gets happened. The new way to work is to embrace technology, but not to become it. The future is in technology, yet the bigger future lies in transcending it. Let's live and lead from here.
And that's it from our side, folks. Thank you so much. It was over to you, Yashin.
Thank you, Michelle. Your insights have given us a refreshed look on how to keep our businesses relevant, and most importantly, the tough decisions that business owners need to make, especially in this day and age. I now introduce our second speaker, Alex Allkamp, a self-taught sales connoisseur with over 10 years experience. He now teaches sales forces on how to increase and dominate sales in their sectors. Over to you, Alex.
All right, so first of all, thanks very much for having me on this webinar. And thanks, Michelle, for a great presentation. So like Yashin mentioned very briefly, I've been involved in sales for just over 10 years now, the good part of 10 years of my life. And sales has become an obsession for me. So much so that I've just recently started a company called Excel Consulting, whereby I now train sales forces on what I call the new age of selling. And like Michelle quite rightfully touched on, selling has become, or should I say, has to become very personal these days. So what I'm going to be talking about today is obviously the new age of selling, or what I call the new age of selling. And to sort of paint the picture, the prefix to this, so new age selling is basically the death of the average salesman or saleswoman. And that goes as far as business builders too, So, if we look back sort of pre-COVID, like Michelle also said, as soon as the lockdown was announced, I mean, my whole life got turned upside down, especially as a consultant. So very quickly shifted my business online, created sales courses online, had them accredited with various institutions. So I was quite fortunate in getting that done. And I think sort of, what lockdown brought about was this whole notion in business of pivoting and of course, business agility. So the exact same principles apply to selling. And, what I'm going to discuss with us today, or with you guys today, is the 5 principles or skills that must be learned and developed in this new age of selling. And what this will do when done successfully is scale your sales. So the very first skill that I will be discussing is, of course, empathy, which leads the way. Now, what exactly is empathy? So empathy is an emotional intelligence skill, and it is the ability to know what another person is thinking or feeling. This is the #1 skill to have in sales. And of course, why is empathy so important in sales? When empathy is exercised during sales conversations, the ability to perform and other important skills improve automatically. These include trust building, discovery, and collaborative solutions-based engagement. And here's exactly why. So empathy builds trust. One of the foundations for trust is the feeling of being seen and heard. When empathy is exercised, the psychological result is a sensation of well-being and safety, which leads to greater trust. Empathy also improves your questioning. So asking great questions is a critical sales skill. And when empathy is exercised more readily, the prospect is understood more comprehensively. One can actually get deeper to reveal more information. Empathy also helps us define the problem. Now, before I carry on with that, obviously people buy out of emotion. Every single purchase that we've all made has always been done from an emotional standpoint. And to dig a little bit deeper into the roots of that emotion, it's actually based on pain. So people buy to sort of fix or heal a pain that they're feeling or experiencing. So what happens is when empathy leads the way, you can feel what your prospect is feeling. You can gain a deeper insight into the emotional foundations of the prospect's problems. And this enables you to define and articulate the problem in terms of that to resonate with the prospect. Empathy also helps you define the solution. With an empathetic understanding of the problem, you are better equipped to develop a solution that addresses it more effectively. Then also, empathy closes the sale. By exercising empathy, you soon develop an accurate gauge on your prospect's emotional state and readiness for the close. This enables you to take each step towards the close at exactly the right time. Now, some of you might be thinking, how is this developed and can it be developed? And the answer to that is absolutely. So how we develop empathy is the following 3 steps or skills. So with focused attention and practice, empathy can be developed as a skill set. So what we do is we have to slow down and actually pay attention. So empathy can only be developed when you slow down and pay attention to what your prospect is saying and how they use their body language to communicate their emotional state. The second one is to listen. Listening deeply and actively is critical to empathy. Always let the prospect do most of the talking while focusing carefully on what the prospect is actually saying. And then thirdly, imagine. So imagine yourself in the prospect's position. Deeply feel the prospect's experience during each contact point. Really feeling what the prospect feels is the key to empathy and to all the benefits that empathy unlocks. The next skill set to be successful with regards to New Age selling is omnipresence. Now, omnipresence is the ability to be visible across multiple platforms simultaneously. People must see you everywhere. Now, if I can just quickly jump in here, the prefix to all of this, especially with regards to New Age selling, is that you need to identify sort of intrinsically your ideal customer profile. Now, it gets pretty deep in terms of the science behind this. You really need to understand and know who this ideal customer is in terms of creating this profile. So go as deep as, is it a male? Is it a female? How old are they? What do they earn? Do they have children? And then actually build this sort of avatar for yourself and make this sort of your everyday vision, on your vision board, this ideal customer profile. So when you become omnipresent and people need to see you everywhere, it's obviously your ideal customer that has to see you everywhere, because those are the ones that are going to be buying from you. So to move on, this is the quickest and surest way to build trust and credibility with your audience and ideal customers. There is no better time than now to be illustrating your personal brand across social media platforms. So the examples that I've given here, Facebook has now become your personal reality TV show. Instagram is your personal business magazine. YouTube is your personal business show. And LinkedIn has become your personal business times. What you then need to do is create a personal marketing budget, like Michelle has already discussed. But now as a salesperson in the new age of selling, you can do this for yourself. So create a personal marketing budget and get yourself seen. Then you got to think small, but act big. And the key to being omnipresent is producing valuable content for your audience and then engaging with them daily. The next skill set to be developed in terms of new age selling is you have to keep your message personal. So ads, your sales message is the central persuasive message that intrigues, informs, persuades, calls to action, and then closes the sale. Remember, empathy leads the way every single time. Then you need to know and understand exactly what your prospects want and need, and ensure that you are giving exactly what is required by being personal. Remember, selling is all about how you sell and not what you sell. Then our next skill that we need to develop and learn is we need to give value to receive value. So by being omnipresent as the industry expert and thought leader, feed your audience exactly what they want with mouth-watering value. Find out what your prospects' industries need and give them value via blog posts, reports, opinions, and how-tos. Next thing, create a landing page for yourself where you can drive your traffic to download your free content, which is jam-packed with value. In exchange, they will give you their email address. Fair trade. In time, you will convert this audience into paying clients once you have nurtured them and developed rapport throughout the buying journey. And just like Michelle mentioned, she has a list of over 10,000 people that have bought from her already. So it just shows you the value and importance of having a mailing list. Next up, EQ closes the deal every single time. So with new age selling, along with empathy, EQ is what gets the deal across the line. Emotional intelligence is the heartbeat of new age sales. EQ is now the new smart. It enables us to have genuine communication with prospects and clients and create solid relationships. This important quotient at a high level allows us to sense, understand, and effectively apply the power of our emotions during our engagements with buyers to ramp up sales. Once you have built trust and rapport by being empathetic during the sales process, your prospects look to you as a trusted advisor. So gone are the days of being the pitchy or sleazy salesperson. You are now the trusted advisor. So not only will they be buying from you, they'll be shouting your name from the rooftops, exactly what you want. And then lastly, the last skill to be developed is your personal brand story. Now, harnessing the power of your personal story to create a memorable brand and grow your audience of buyers is a very powerful promotional strategy. Storytelling is the foundation of any personal brand. Great stories evoke powerful emotions that buyers relate to. When a story is good, we want more. People also share stories, and stories are invitations into your life. Your buyers perceive you as an approachable person. So what happens is when you share your stories with your audience, you are telling them that you are connected because fundamentally you are just like them. So to quickly recap on my 5 steps or skill sets that are critical to flourish and become evergreen in new age selling are the following. So let's quickly go back. New age selling is all about building trust and credibility with your prospects. This in turn creates healthy and sustainable business, which of course is evergreen. So first skill set, empathy leads the way. All right. Secondly, we need to become omnipresent across every single channel or platform available. Thirdly, you need to keep your message personal. And then fourth, EQ closes the deal every single time without fail. And then lastly, you need to develop your personal brand story. And that's it from me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alex. That was awesome. I think you've reminded us that sales experience is ultimately what sets you apart from the competitors, because customers resonate with someone they feel understands their needs. So that was really awesome. Thanks again, Alex.
Thank you.
I'm gonna try my intro again one more time for our last speaker. In the right-hand corner, wearing no hair, weighing in with an amazing e-commerce knowledge, with 0 losses, unlimited wins. Ladies and gentlemen, our BMS e-commerce specialist, my friend, Michael Singleton.
Thanks, Yashin. Yeah, sorry again about all the technical challenges. So I'm not going to bore you guys much with a presentation or trying to explain e-commerce to you. I think our wonderful speakers have done so. But one thing I do want to obviously this whole comparison between the new school and the old school way of doing things. A lot of people contact us saying, you know, we built this awesome platform, and in most cases it is. But there's this misconception that if you build it, that people will come. But it's not the fact. You need to implement these measures that both Alex and Michelle have mentioned. You need to drive traffic as you would in a physical store, in order to make your online business a success. So yeah, take what they've said. There's some amazing advice that's been shared. Put it to practice, and I can guarantee you will see results.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Michael. As usual, some very cool information. Guys, as mentioned, we said that we will give an opportunity for the attendees to ask some questions to Michelle and Alex. So please use the Q&A panel on the right-hand side, where you can post some questions, and we will present it through to Michelle and Alex. I think in the interim, I'd just listening to the presentations from the two talkers. Michelle, I have a question for you from my space. What is it the most challenging aspects of digital marketing? What is the most challenging aspects of digital marketing that you face?
I think that the most challenging thing about digital marketing is that it's ever changing, ever evolving. There's always something new. Just if I look from the beginning of this year to where we are now, 9 months later, the new platforms that have become available to marketers to use. Being in that digital marketing field, it's an ever learning experience. One such example would be TikTok. TikTok kind of exploded with everybody being stuck in lockdown, and everybody was experimenting with it. And then businesses were like, oh, wait, but now how do we use TikTok to sell? And recently, Instagram has now brought in IG Reels. And that is basically Instagram's version of TikTok. So now you're like, oh, crikey, am I on TikTok? Am I on Reels? I'm on Instagram. So it's this whole thing of always figuring out what's happening, what's changing, what's new, and is it relevant to what we do? Because my rule is you don't have to be on every platform. You must select your platform and adapt with it. So yeah, that's something that I say is from a digital marketing perspective that is a challenge, keeping up with the changing times.
Thanks, Michelle. And I think that's one thing we've learned, especially through this COVID pandemic, is if we don't keep up, we're going to lose out. Just on also what you were saying earlier, how do you track the success rate of the digital campaigns? We've run a few within our space as well, and we definitely see the successes. But how do you track the success rate of it?
So that is a tricky one. I always say, luckily in today's, with all the technology we have, the digital footprint is tracked quite nicely with technology, from where the leaders come from, to what they viewed on your website, to whether they purchase, how much they purchase, and the analytics that are available are amazing. But it is a little bit tricky, especially when you're using multiple platforms. So my e-commerce platform gives me stats, and then Google gives me stats as well, and trying to see where those kind of come together and where there are discrepancies. But luckily we do not live in the era of 15 years ago, 20 years ago, when a consumer walks into a store or phones you up and you've got to ask, so where did you hear about us? Telephone, book, billboard, magazine, you tick the little box. Now those boxes are ticked automatically for us. So that's really, really amazing that we've got that at our fingertips. But the trick is still that human element, because, again, technology can give us the stats. We as people need to sit and work through it and draw our deductions from it and analyze it. So that's pretty much how I track it. A little bit of digital and then a little bit of this up here.
Makes sense. Thanks, Michelle. So another thing we've noticed, right, is obviously with the restrictions being lifted, there's still a very large percentage of the population that is comfortable with bricks and mortar and walking into these shopping malls to do the shopping. How do you plan on changing that marketing strategy?
So we've definitely seen that now with the e-commerce. There was this beautiful boom during lockdown, and a lot of new people learning how to use those technologies. But as you said, there are people who are still very comfortable with the brick and mortar. They want to go, they want to see, they want to feel, touch, and experience that shopping. So that we can clearly see the slight downturn. It's not massive, but slight downturn in e-commerce and picking up retail again. Your physical stores. And I think the crux of that comes down to, again, what I touched on in the presentation. As a business owner and entrepreneur, you have to adapt with the times. So take your new environment, take what's happening, and adapt to it. I'll be honest, I haven't quite nailed the strategy yet. It's still a work in progress. But yeah, it's basically now going a little bit, taking a couple of steps back, terrible way to say it, but taking a couple steps back and saying, okay, let's get those new customers again, let's drive those customers to the website, but still maintaining what we've learned from COVID in terms of, you know, your customer retention and your remarketing and bringing those customers who are loyal back to you all the time. So it's kind of taking the old and reintegrating it into the new.
Awesome.
I hope that answers the question.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much for that.
No worries.
We have a question that's come through on the panel. With the majority of restrictions now lifted, with the majority of restrictions now lifted from how you can change the operating model during lockdown, specifically from a marketing perspective, will you continue with applying the same 80-20 principle, or are you making some tweaks to model your post-restrictions lifted? If yes, what changes are you planning on making?
Okay, so that I touched on in the previous question. Yes, currently, as of today, I'm still applying the 80-20 principle. I'm still going with that strategy. I am going to be sitting down with a couple of people and start looking at a new strategy moving forward from October. You know, October, November, December, Christmas season, people are going to start doing their Christmas shopping. So how do we take what I've learned, what we've all learned during COVID and this 80-20 principle that I applied, and how do we capitalize on that, but still try and get the people who are now going back to the normal way of shopping, or the old way of shopping. So at this point in time, I haven't quite changed my model. I am considering looking at opening up my social media advertising again, that I said in my presentation that I cut. But my question is, I don't want to, or my big challenge is, I don't want to do what I was doing post-COVID. Pre-COVID, sorry. I want to do something new with it. So just apply the old ways in a new way.
Yeah, I suppose that makes sense. Taking what's happened and evolving from it.
Yes.
Awesome.
Always evolving.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Thanks so much, Michelle. Alex, I also have a few questions for you. You know, as somebody that I manage 2 sales forces, so what you said definitely resonated within me. So tell me, in terms of what you said, can empathy be self-taught?
Thanks, Yashin. The answer to that question is unequivocally yes, 100%. So because you know, it is a skill, and it's an emotional skill. It is something that can be sort of practiced to be learned, you know, for the betterment of yourself. So the sort of crux, or the underlying principle when it comes to empathy is, of course, listening. Now, as humans, you know, hearing is a physiological function, you know, that we were born with and that we do on a daily basis. But to truly listen is where the skill comes in. And so what this means is, you know, how it can be practiced as well as with family, with other colleagues. And the first thing is to, you know, truly listen when someone's talking to you. Those of us that are married, I'm sure, almost have a degree in listening by now. But so the trick is to truly listen. And what this means is, of course, you know, when you're conversing with someone, is actually sort of comprehend, acknowledge, you know, the retention that was, you know, the retention of the message that you are receiving. And then, of course, to respond with sort of an acknowledgement thereof. You know, so prime example, you know, if you and I are chatting and you're going to say to me, Alex, how's your day? And I'm going to say, you know, it's been great so far. Thank you, Yashin. And I'm going to say, how about you? And when you respond to me and you tell me, you know, that whatever's happened and the weather's nice wherever you are, I will then respond and say, that's wonderful. You know, here where I'm sitting, the weather's pretty much the same. Now, what I've done there is I've taken your message that you've given to me. I've received it, I've comprehended it, and I've then sort of retorted with my own knowledge or takeaway, so to speak, of what you've said to me. So to take this back to sort of a sales environment, you know, when dealing or conversing with a prospect or even your clients, when you're sitting down with them, and especially this is super important when prospecting, especially, you know, that client needs to know that he is or that he can or she can trust you, you know, and truly trust you. And this is where the credibility and the rapport building starts coming in. So when you're in that environment, when you're doing your discovery and you're finding out what are your pain points, what are the issues that you're facing, you know, where the empathy comes in is to put yourself in that position as if you were the prospect. So you would retort always by saying, you know, I completely understand your situation, and then give back information that they want to be receiving, so to speak, you know, and it has to always be solutions driven. We are always trying to fix a problem. Remember, people buy out of pain, and so give your solution as an advisor, you know, basically. So to go back to your question, yes, it can 100% be learned or self-taught, and it is a thing that when practiced enough becomes second nature to you. And then, of course, the underlying, you know, the next step from there is, of course, like I discussed, EQ. You know, emotional intelligence is now the heartbeat of new age selling, and it is the crux. Also, you know, to go back to what Michelle was saying, it's that human element. You know, it's that real human element whereby when we're conversing or interacting or engaging with prospects and clients, they want to feel human. You know, they want to be sort of treated as if, you know, they are important to you. Of course, we know this, but they want that human element, and that's where sort of empathy and then straight into EQ is what's going to get us there.
Brilliant, Alex. I couldn't agree more. You know, we as salespeople, I think we get into this routine of having the sales breath of just wanting to regurgitate product when you're sitting in front of the client. But that skill of actually just being able to sit and listen to their needs and then deliver on the products you're offering. That is so important, and also applying that emotional intelligence to it as well.
Absolutely.
So, Alex, tell me, in terms of building a personal brand, you know, it's such an important thing, and it's definitely something that stood out for me. How easy it is to, or how possible is it to do it while you're currently working for a company?
So, Yashin, yes, absolutely, and you know, it's very possible, of course. And for me, I think it's, you know, like I said, it's so important, especially for success in sales. Now, you know, what it has to do, or what has to happen or occur, is that always remember, in sales, the people that are buying from you, you know, not the company. And it's always about how you sell and not exactly what you sell. So what happens now when you're in the sales role or position within a company, you need to stand out from your competition, and that competition is obviously, you know, competitors from other companies, but the competition is also your fellow colleagues. You know, you've got targets to chase, etc. You've got commissions to make, so you need to separate yourself from the rest of the pack. Now, what happens is you would create your own brand, obviously on social media by using all the platforms that we've discussed. And then, of course, use the brand elements, so to speak, of the company. Now, with regards to sales and selling, and I'm sure you would agree with me, Yashin, is that there is a direct sort of nexus or connection to sales and entrepreneurship. Now, what happens is when I'm a salesperson, let's say I'm a salesperson for Bidvest Bank, as an example, I actually become a franchisee of the main franchise, which is Bidvest Bank. The portfolio of clients that I'm currently servicing or that fall under my sort of umbrella, that's my business, you know. So what happens now is that we start creating a business within a business. And like I said, people want to buy from you as the individual. So this is why it is so critical and so important to develop and build your own brand within the company. So, you know, how to do, you would simply create your separate business pages on the relevant platforms, obviously incorporating the brand elements of the main company, because of course, you know, you're never going to be bigger than the brand. The brand is always going to be bigger than you, and you must always be respectful of the brand. So absolutely, create your own brand within the brand. And what happens is, you know, you'll start adding your own spice and your own flavor to you know, the main brand or the umbrella brand. And that is how you're going to separate yourself from the opposition, even if that opposition is sitting in the office or the cubicle right next door to you, you know.
Most likely the case, yeah. Awesome. Thanks so much for that, Alex. And I think my last question to you is, you mentioned that, you know, about keeping your message personal. Just give me a little bit of an explanation there, like, you know, how personal do you get when you're sending out this message?
Okay, so yeah, so like I mentioned, and I'm sure Michelle knows quite a bit about this too. You you know, the trick, or the sort of the secret ingredient to selling these days, of course, you know, with this whole shift online, etc., is, like I touched on before, you need to create your, what I call the ICP, which is your ideal customer profile. But you need to really get deep with it, you know. So, you know, if I had to quickly, you know, shoot to Michelle and say, what is your ideal customer profile? What she would need to do is say to me, my avatar looks as such. So my ideal customer is, let's call it females between the age of 30 and 35 that earn, you know, 30 to 40,000 Rand a month. They've got 2 children, and you can get really deep with this. You know, you can say they stay in a townhouse, you know, of 3 bedrooms. They've got pets. They've got this. So that's how deep you can get, because the power of social media allows us to actually target and identify these exact people. Now, to take it a step further, you need to also understand the problems that your ideal customer is facing within their various industries. And that also pertains to the industries that you service. So go in and go deep, and you can find this information all over social media, literally, you know, by use of hashtags on Instagram, or analytics, you know, on Facebook, or even just following groups and associations that these people belong to. So go in deep and find out exactly what their pain points are. And so if I can give you an example, Yashen, if my ideal customer profile was, let's call it people buying property, right? I would go in and I'd go and look at these various forums and find out what is irritating, or what is bothering, or what is hurting these people in terms of their pain points. Because of course we all buy out of pain, you know, that is the emotion that makes people buy. And so what are the problems that they're facing, and how can I fix this problem? Whether I'm working for, like I said, Bidvest Bank or whatever, remember it's my brand within the brand, I will then go and identify the exact problems that these people are facing. And then my entire sales message across all my messaging, and like I said, you know, it goes from proposals to your prospecting, you know, your actual meeting, your engagements, your contact points with your prospects. Every single thing that I'm putting forward or putting out must carry the same message. And when I talk about the message being personal, remember, it's a combination of the human elements, the touch, the empathy, the EQ, and then of course, because and the reason why, sorry, is because of course people connect to you on that level. You know, fundamentally they look at you and they think we are the same people, we're the same person, right? So my entire message must be so personal that it sort of rings true or rings home. But most importantly, it's got to be fixing the problems or healing the problems. You know, I look at it, I always refer to it as either the vitamin C or the Band-Aid, you know, the Band-Aid principle. So I'm here to fix your wounds, and I'm the vitamin C, your morning shots of vitamin C. And so what that is in terms of your message being personal, it's touching on all the pain points that you're experiencing. And to take it a step further, I'm a human being connecting with a fellow human being, and across all my sales messaging, this is who I am, and this is what I'm going to do for you. So when people are, you know, it's almost like also on Wedding Crashers, one of my favorite movies of all time, when he says, you know, take that net and catch those butterflies, or those sweet butterflies, or something like that. That's exactly what it is. And every single message that you're throwing out must be accepted and received by your prospects where they are feeling human sort of engagement or connection. I hope that answers the question.
That did. Thank you so much for that, Alex. Really appreciate it. Okay, so we've got a question here for Michelle. So, Michelle, why did you make a decision to cut spending on social media advertising specifically? The perception out there is that social media is the most effective marketing channel. Do you disagree with that perception?
I don't necessarily disagree with the fact that social media is the most effective marketing channel. The reason I went with cutting my social media spend is because my sales statistics indicated that the majority of my sales still comes from direct access to my website, search hits, and then followed by my email campaigns. Before lockdown, if I remember correctly, my social media the sales driven from social media was only 12%, where the others made up the rest. So for my business, the social media is more a brand awareness platform than it is a sales platform. So that's why I decided to do that. I still continued posting. I didn't stop posting. I didn't stop with videos. I didn't stop with live events and things like that. I continued with it. I just didn't spend money on boosting and getting new page likes and things like that. So it was really just taking my statistics and deciding what to do with my social media, post going into COVID. But as I said, now post-COVID, I'm relooking all of those things again, and how am I going to move forward? So it was 100%, as I said, taking my stats that was available with my marketing budget and allocating my marketing budget to where I knew I was getting the best return.
Awesome, awesome. Okay, so I have another question, and this is for both Michelle and Alex. How do you build trust with a customer that you don't get FaceTime with? Is your digital presence enough?
Do you want to go first, Michelle?
Okay, I see I'm live, so let me go first. So in terms of building that that repertoire with a customer, with no face-to-face interaction, there's a couple of strategies that I apply from an e-commerce point of view. One is reviews on your product, where other people have given reviews, and that kind of, okay, somebody's bought this, somebody's reviewed it, they like it, I'm going to trust my fellow consumer. Another way is actual customer thank you emails. So I've got a dedicated a link on my website where all these customer emails come in, where they say, thank you, Michelle. This was fantastic. Macaroon's great, whatever the thing is, so that there's this, constant feed of actual replies on that side. I do also put my my cell phone number. It's not a landline, it's a cell phone number, so people know when they're phoning, they're going to get through to a physical person. I try build repertoire and trust on that level. And then it's communication. I think it comes down to communication. If you're communicating with people, if they're dropping an email, if they're dropping a message on social media, with you replying to them, that they know that there's somebody there, that there's this consistency. As I said previously, I think that they probably will have a little bit more ease in shopping with you. So that's just kind of from my point of view. I don't know, Alex, your thoughts on the matter?
Thanks, Michelle. Yeah, I completely agree with you. So, Yashin, just to answer the question from your side, I think for me, without a question, I would start back, right at the beginning of what I mentioned, by creating your personal sort of brand story. So what would inevitably happen is that people would relate to you once they connect with your story. So if you go out and tell them, this is who I am, this is what I've done, this is where I started, this is what my journey's been, all the trials, tribulations that you've experienced, and how you fixed that, and how you got to where you are today. Not necessarily to say that you are now uber successful or whatever, but just to, how you got over those issues and troubles in your life, and how each product or service that you are selling has aided you in that process. So I think that's the first thing, because what your consumers would then do is they connect to you immediately, because they find a connection with your story. And like I said in my slides, fundamentally they feel that they are you. So that's the first, is that connection to your personal brand story. And then I would agree 100% with Michelle. The next thing is, of course, engagement. So all the content that you're putting out, whether it's offers or just general banter or just connection with your audience, all that content, yes, has to be relatable to them. But secondly, you need to engage on that. So, like Michelle touched on, if there's a response to you, immediately respond. If it's on your social media platforms, respond, but respond empathetically. Once again, remember, empathy leads the way all the time. And give your input and see how you can help. And I also, just to jump back to Michelle's 80-20 principle, I mean, that's literally how I live my life, and it is the greatest book as well that you can read. If anyone out there hasn't read it, please go do yourself a favor, read the book, The 80-20 Principle by Richard Koch. And so what that means as well, in terms of your sales messaging and your engagement with your audience, the same principle applies, the 80-20 principle. So, you know, be empathetic and be human, engage for 80% of your interactions, and then pitch your services or products for the remaining 20%. And that will yield that sort of human connection with your audience, you know, keeping it real. Another little tip or trick, if I can just add my 2 cents here, is, you know, like Michelle said, she's given a WhatsApp line or a direct line. So, you know, to build instant rapport, of course, you can't be on the phone with everyone all the time. But if a WhatsApp message comes through, a little trick that I sometimes use is, you know, respond with a video. So a quick video of yourself. Thanks very much for your message. I can definitely relate to that, and, you know, throw the content out. A, B, C, D, E, F. Quickly, you know, 30-second, 40-second video. So what that does, you know, if you look at it on the flip side, you know, if I'm the consumer and I'm getting a WhatsApp sort of video from Michelle Duplessis with regards to her products or services, I'm going to feel that much more connected to her. And it's just those little tips and I wouldn't call it tricks, but skills that we can apply to make the engagement sort of that much more personal.
Cool. Thank you so much for that, Alex. I must say, this session has proved immensely a huge amount of information I'll be taking. So I want to thank you guys. I'd like to extend my gratitude to Michelle, Alex, and Michael for availing themselves for today's webinar. We'd definitely like to hear from you guys post this webinar. So should you have any more questions, please send an email to us and we will respond. In closing, I'd like to thank you guys. Please stay safe and healthy and have an awesome, awesome weekend.